After 4 years of development, the largest change to the Rust compiler since its initial release is about to drop. In this video, I'm going to explain Rust's next generation trait solver, what it means for you and your Rust codebases, and when you can start taking advantage of it. So let's dive right in. So the Rust team just released this blog post titled Enabling the Next Generation Trait Solver in Nightly. In the blog post, they say after nearly 4 years of active development, the next generation trait solver is close to stabilization. And it's the largest single change to the Rust compiler since its initial release. Now, a trait solver is essentially the Rust compiler's proof engine. In Rust, we define traits and set trait bounds to specify the rules around what functionality a generic type can have. And a trait solver constructs a valid proof that your generic code is legal. And a trait solver verifies those rules are enforced. Now, the existing trait solver has accumulated over 200 open GitHub issues that would be solved by the next generation trait solver. And many of these issues show up in advanced generic and trait-heavy code, where the compiler could reject valid code, infer types incorrectly, or struggle with complex trait bounds. For example, this issue where the current trait solver causes infinite recursion in type resolution. Or this open issue where the current trait solver causes an overflow when evaluating the requirement of having the sized trait implemented. Now, according to the blog post, besides solving all these GitHub issues, the main benefit of this next generation trait solver actually comes in the future. It says the removal of the old trait solver implementation will unlock features such as type alias impl trait and return type notation, and will also allow the Rust team to add new implicit trait bounds like move and forget, as well as fix some remaining type system unsoundness. Now, to be a little more concrete, here we can see that the type alias impl trait feature allows you to write impl trait in type alias positions. For example, with this feature, you can now write a type alias, which is any type that implements the iterator trait and returns items of U32. This allows you to create more complex named iterator types, which is something we currently cannot do. And the return type notation feature will allow you to write code like this. Here we have a function called spawnService that takes a service type, which is a generic S. And we can specify that S implements the service trait, and that S has a function that returns something that implements the send trait. This code right here, which specifies the return type of call should implement send, is currently not something you can do in Rust, but will be available in the future thanks to the next generation trait solver. And the benefit to us Rust developers is not just that a bunch of GitHub issues will be fixed and a bunch of new features will be enabled in the future, but we'll also likely see a reduction in compile times. So here we can see a chart showing different versions of Nightly Rust with the new trait solver and how it performs in terms of compile times against the old trait solver. And with the latest version of Nightly Rust here colored in purple, you can see that a lot of times it performs on par with the old trait solver. However, there are a few outliers both on the left-hand side and the right-hand side. So sometimes the new trait solver can be 3 times slower than the old trait solver, and other times the new trait solver can be more than 8 times faster than the old trait solver. In fact, with the new trait solver, the Apache Data Fusion crate now compiles more than 8 times faster. So when can you actually start taking advantage of the next generation trait solver? Well, the new trait solver is actually currently in Nightly Rust. So you can simply switch over to Nightly, or at least run Nightly in your CI/CD pipeline, and start testing it right away. In fact, the Rust team would be really grateful as they point out here, please try out the latest Nightly and open an issue if you encounter any bugs or regression. And the better news is that the Rust team plans to stabilize the next generation trait solver within the next months. Now, I'm personally very excited for this change because it will lay the groundwork for some future features that will greatly improve language ergonomics. I'm personally going to start testing this in Nightly Rust right away, and I think you should too. And if you're interested in learning how to write production-grade Rust, check out our Rust Live Accelerator. It's our tailored mentorship program where we help developers go beyond YouTube videos, build production-grade Rust systems, and land their first Rust job. You can join the waitlist for our next cohort by heading over to letsgetrusty.com/join, or by clicking the link in the pinned comment below. When you join the waitlist, we'll also send you our Rust developer roadmap as a small gift. So tap the link, join the waitlist, and I'll talk to you very soon.